one of those years where everything seems to go wrong? The year of 2016 to 2017 was like that for me. My partner of 8 years left me. I lost my job. My apartment flooded. I got hit by a boat. I suffered a concussion. And my car died. Like, really wrong? I needed some way to cope. So that was how I found myself signing up for a Kundalini yoga festival in Joshua Tree. I'd done Kundalini once, and it seemed okay. I didn't really notice that the teacher wasn't all white. I figured he just wore light-colored clothes because it was hot outside, which was why I showed up to the festival in all black. I checked in for the festival with a borrowed tent and a brand new sleeping bag. An older man greeted me and pointed to a sandy field where I was supposed to set up my tent. I had never set up a tent, let alone in the desert. So I called my tent neighbor over to help me. He looked like a yoga festival regular with a long, flowing braid hanging over his left shoulder that cascaded past his rib cage. I would die for hair that healthy and shiny. He helped me stake the tent, and as we chatted, he told me, I live in Commerce, outside of LA, where the vibrational currents are much higher. Okay, I said. Then he looked deeply into my eyes and said, Satnam. Yeah. I thanked him and told him, Satnam back, assuming it was like aloha, both a hello and a goodbye. I continued to hear Satnam all weekend with no idea what it meant. One of the reasons I came to the festival was to see the concert that night. The singer's name was Snatum Kaur. Although I don't think Snatum is her birth name. She looks more like a Carol to me. I made my way to the concert tent and sat down. I looked to my right and saw 3 middle-aged ladies. They were what I would call retreat chic. They had fashionable clothes on in all white, large diamond wedding rings, and beaded meditation necklaces to round out the look. I overheard them joking about getting the eye from a gentleman in their last workshop, and I liked them immediately. The ladies reminded me of my stepmother from New York City. My stepmother had gotten divorced, renovated her apartment, and then renovated herself with a facelift, and began taking classes in how to feng shui your home. That's when I started to get crystal pendants in the mail, with notes from her that read, Ginger, hang this in your bedroom facing east. As we waited for the concert to begin, a mother sitting in front of us began to breastfeed, and I saw Miss Retreat Chic shift uncomfortably. I could relate to my neighbor. I'd grown up in the Northeast where functions of the body were hidden and shameful. But I've been working hard to replace these prejudices with love and acceptance, as any good yogi should. Snatum/Carol was amazing, and after the concert, I started talking to a guy sitting next to me. Again, a person not in white, with no head covering. By now, I was noticing a theme. Person in all white, probably offended I'm in all black, and then reads my aura and sees all the work I still need to do on myself. Person in any color other than white, probably binge watches Netflix too, and has no idea my life was falling apart. His name was Jared. He was my age, lived in Seattle, and had been to India 3 times. I had been to India too, and we began to exchange stories of almost dying on Indian public transport. I also felt comfortable enough to share my story of getting amoebic dysentery on an overnight train from the Himalayas to New Delhi. Yes, dysentery, like in the Oregon Trail. Except replace the wooden wagon old train and exchange an outhouse on a prairie for a small, hot metal room with a hole directly over the train tracks. I told him all about speeding through the mountains for hours in that small space, trying to quickly maneuver back and forth between having diarrhea and vomiting. I must have felt very, very comfortable because here I was painting a rather disgusting picture of my orifices. Before long, my comfort morphed into a crush. I didn't want the night to end, so I asked Jared if he wanted to walk me to my car to get another layer of clothing. As we chatted, I wondered what the rules and expectations were for males and females at yoga festivals. Are activities of the flesh frowned upon? I found the game Guess Who in my trunk and asked Jared if he wanted to play. By then, it was 1:30 a.m. Jared agreed and then asked if we should spend the night together. My thoughts raced. Was this the kind of spend the night together like in a 19th century period drama where we would play a board game, say a cordial goodnight, and he sleeps outside my tent to ward off large desert animals of prey? Or would it be like the 21st century episode of Sex and the City, where we would somehow manage to have sex in a tiny tent, and I would tell my girlfriends all about my yoga fling? All I knew for sure was that I had been in a porta potty without a headlamp just 15 minutes prior and peed a significant amount of urine onto the back of my pants. I had also only been single for 6 months. Would I have to use a condom? I hadn't bought condoms in about a decade, and this was the middle of nowhere. So would the gas station even happen? After a long pause, followed by a 4-second, I pulled off a casual rejection with a, hey, how about we play the board game outside of the tent? Gosh, it's really too small for 2 people anyway. I wish I could have read auras right then. I would have loved to have known what Jared shifted to at that moment. We were up until 3:30 a.m. playing Guess Who. After playing many rounds, we started making up life stories for each Guess Who character. Maria, with the beret, became an international spy, having an affair with Alex, with the mustache, even though Alex was in a menage a trois with Bernard and Claire. Before Jared left, I leapt through the door flap of my tent and rummaged around for my business card. I handed it to him and gave him a hug goodbye. I crawled back into my tent, and then I thought, who gives out their business card to a potential love interest at a hippie yoga festival? Lots of things seemed acceptable at this festival, but I bet being gainfully employed in a capitalistic system wasn't one of them. I must have fallen asleep at some point because I jerked awake at 6 a.m. I was freezing and uncomfortable. I figured my chances of driving home and sleeping in my own bed were better than trying to fall back asleep. So I got up, probably took my tent down wrong, and threw everything in the trunk of my car. I drove through the empty morning desert in a groggy haze. A couple of hours later, I stumbled into my apartment and immediately fell asleep on my bed. I woke up and wondered, what had just happened? The last few days felt as if I'd stepped onto another planet, where American white people dressed up as East Indians in white flowing clothes with turbans and created a mirage in the desert. Maybe Jared was a mirage too. I grabbed my phone to check for a message from him, but there was nothing. It would take him 16 days to send me a 1-line email. Lame. I let my imagination wander back to the desert. What the heck did Satnam mean after all? I'd been saying it all weekend, but still had no idea. I learned that Sat means truth, and Nam means identity. So when you say Sat Nam, you're literally saying true identity. What was my identity now? That my life was unfolding like a Lifetime television movie for women? Well, that might be true, but that isn't my identity. Instead, I'm making up a new one. One where I'm a badass bitch who drove herself out to the desert, set up a tent and slept in it, peed in the wilderness, and captured the interest of a hot yoga guy. And that was my shiny, brand new Satnam. Thank you.